Okay, hello everyone. I take this opportunity to welcome everyone on board in this live event today, where we have gathered virtually to mark the launch of A Basket of Sunflowers. It's a work of fiction on the lives of seven extraordinary women who explored the various facets of their lives through their own deliberate choices. We have the man of the hour, the author of this beautifully written book, Pinakie Kansabanik, with us. Joining him is our guest of honor for the evening, Dr. Nidhi Hriday Buch, who is an assistant professor of law at Gujarat National Law University. And I'm Dr. Priyadarshini Ghosh, your host for the event. So you can see we have an eclectic mix of people here sharing this virtual space with each other. Here, I shall take the liberty to mention that I happen to have a personal connection with the author himself. I happen to be the ex-student of Pinakie sir, and not too many students can boast of being the host of a book launch of their teacher. So here I am, thrilled and honored beyond words to be a part of this event. So without any ado, let's quickly dive into the business of the evening. And as is the convention, let me introduce our author, Pinakie Kongshabonik, to you. Sir has been extremely passionate to write about people, culture, ethos, and philosophy. Exploring issues of identity, family relations, history excites him. He was raised in the sleepy town of Siliguri, located in the foothills of the eastern Himalayas in Darjeeling in West Bengal, India, and now he's settled in Delhi. He's a voracious reader and he reads anything and everything that comes to his hand. This is his second novel. This is his second book, his debut novel being Mountains to Manhattan, which received wide appreciation. Our guest of honor, Dr. Nidhi Hriday Buch, is an assistant professor of law at Gujarat Law University and is a much admired teacher where she teaches. She's also the director of the Center for Excellence in Intellectual Property Rights, an economics graduate. She has been an active activist campaigning for the economic empowerment of women in India. She was recently recognized as the 100 Powerful IP Women in India 2020 by the World IP Forum. She's done a major project on violence against women in Gujarat under the aegis of the Ministry of Women and Child Development. It's an absolute honor to share this screen with you, madam.
Thank you.
Dr. Buch, madam, if I could request you to please introduce A Basket of Sunflowers for our virtual audience. Having read the book.
Before ma'am starts, I would like to interrupt in between.
Yes, sure.
I would like to introduce Priyadarshini. That's very important. Priyadarshini, as she says, she has been my student when she was in school, but she is right now working as a assistant professor in a college in West Bengal. She has done her graduation and her master's degree from Jadavpur University, Kolkata, and her MPhil and PhD from JNU. We are long connected. Both of us are long connected, and I could not think anyone else to host this event or moderate because when I was writing this stories more than 10 years back as a blog, so she was one of the first readers who used to read all these stories and she lived with the stories. So when I thought of publishing the book and come for a platform where we are going to host this event, so the first and the only choice that I had was Priyadarshini. Though she said that she has not experienced to do it, but to me, I had no other choice because there is no one else who can uh, go with this book, explain the characters or whatever. So she's the only choice I had. So thank you, Priyadarshini, for being here, and thank you, Dr. Uh, Nidhi Buch, to be with us. It's an honor to share the screen with you. Thank you.
Well, I am, like I said, thrilled and honored and overwhelmed and breaking all the conventions. Perhaps the first time we have the author himself introducing the moderator. So it's absolute honor, sir. Thank you so much. So, madam, if I could request you to please introduce A Basket of Sunflowers for our virtual audience. And having read the book, if I may ask you, what's your overall impression about this collection?
Thank you very much, Priyadarshini, for that generous introduction. And I really feel honored to be here with all of you today on this digital event of book launch. If I talk about this particular book, not as the guest for today's event, but just as a reader, when I received this particular invitation and I got to know that okay, fine, it's my moral duty definitely to read the entire book, and I was really keeping quite busy last few days, so I was a little confused as to how will I go about. But I started reading, and I tell you, it is start to finish. I started with Suparna, my journey, and I ended with Anuradha. It is a wonderful short stories, about seven short stories about seven wonderful women. All of them are educated, accomplished. They are by nature very, very committed, loyal, sensitive, emotional. And how, with all these, they have been part and parcel of our societal structure, and how they have lived their life. Some of them really lived their life on their terms, and they were very much aware of the consequences that they will have to face if they decide to live their life on their terms, and how they have faced it actually and independently. So this book definitely touched my heart. All the characters were such that I could somehow, being a woman, relate myself with their journey. Somewhere I felt that it's not Aditi, or it's not Anuradha, or it's not Maitri who is talking, or he's taking decision. It's me who is making choices. And I think that's where I can see that the author really has done a wonderful job and is really an accomplished author, because I just could not leave the book. I traveled with all these seven beautiful, wonderful women with 178 pages, and I felt so much engrossed with it, and they all touched my heart.
Okay, since we have the author himself with us, so let me shoot my first question towards him. Many congratulations to you, sir, on the release of your second book. What
Thank
inspired you
you.
to write this book?
Inspiration, it's the stories. It's not only for this book, but for every book that I write. It is the stories that I find very interesting and different stories that has not been told earlier. So then that is what I think, that okay, when I know this story, then why should it be on only with me? It should travel to the world. It should go to and reach to other people, and they should also know about it. So that is always an inspiration for every story or every book that I write. And when you talk particularly of this book, so there are seven independent, smart, educated women of our society, and they have flaws. They are not perfect. Still, uh, they have to make choices, and they have to deal with the consequences of their choices. And they have dealt with all their choices very bravely. Uh, we celebrate them for their determination. We celebrate their right to make their own decision, which most of the people in the society, not necessarily women, do not do. So these characters are so strong that I felt okay. So this story should the stories should go out. This protagonist should go out in the to the people, and they should read it, they should know it, and this might inspire a lot of people, a lot of young girls, a lot of women, that yes, you can live your life, you can live your life with your own determination, and make your own choices with your own right. Surprisingly, the Indian government, the constitution, the law has given a lot of rights to the Indian women, but most of them do not avail them. They are still moving around our world where uh, they are concerned like what the society will think. So they have to take up those rights. They should apply them, and they should be in part of inspiration. So that is the reason I thought that these stories should go, should inspire people, maybe. And maybe, as ma'am said, I also hope, like, when you read the stories, maybe most of them relate to them. Maybe not every story will relate to them incident wise, but uh, as a choice of the characters, the thought process, it would be inspirational to them.
Okay, so you have named this book A Basket of Sunflowers. So tell us more about the title. I mean, how did you come up with this title? And why sunflowers of all the flowers?
See, sunflower symbolizes hope and happiness. And when you see this sunflower, mm, you just cannot stop smiling. The bloom is so big, bright, vibrant. And each and every protagonist in my book, they are a symbol of hope. They are bright. They stand straight with their heads held high, whatever may be the circumstances or situation. They have faith. The choices they made, as I said, they are brave. They are loyal. They are self-confident. They are intelligent. So I could not think any other flower better than the sunflower. When you see sunflower, their heads are always held high. They keep moving with the sun. So when I thought of making, see, and women go with flowers, but when I thought of flowers, I could not think any other flowers which can represent, a character which is very bold and vibrant and confident. So that is why, so every one of them are a sunflower for me, and so that's why it's a basket of sunflowers.
Okay, aptly said. Um, well, for the audience, I must say that not too many of us know that Pinakie sir is also an IT professional. So, what's the switch easy from IT to writing, foraying into totally different waters? I'm not implying by any means that writing is something that is solely meant for people from the humanities or the social sciences background. But tell us more about this journey.
No, it's not only IT. From IT, I moved on to the events and to the international exhibitions and conferences, what I do. So, but that's a professional life. That has nothing to do, as you said, with writing. I write because I love to write. I'm writing maybe for the last 20 years. But yeah, those are very raw, very bad writings. And but Yes, the only reason I write is to tell stories, to be a creative past person, and nothing else. But Yeah, profession has nothing to do with it. But yes, definitely the profession hampers writing. So when you are busy, when you are in a day job, you are doing a lot of things, then yes, you cannot write. So it has been like years when I could not write, and I always feel a pain within that. Yes, I have to write, but I do not know with the engagement that I have or what goes in the office. You do not have a mindset to come and write.
Okay. If I may ask Dr. Buch, seven female characters in one book. So, do these characters for you in any way reflect the aspirations, choices, dreams of modern Indian women?
Oh, yes, certainly, certainly. That's the reason I could relate myself with these characters. All of them, have been shown or portrayed to be very independent. Though they somehow emotionally get attached with their relation, but I think that's their strength, and that is what I think the society must realize, that being loyal, being emotional, being sensitive is something with which a woman is born, and those are the positive characteristics of a woman, and they are not at all their weaknesses. In fact, I feel that I am a woman who is having so much of strength because of those characteristics that I have. When I'm emotionally attached with someone, I am ready to do everything, and I think that choice is very difficult, which I have seen some of the characters taking, like Maitreyi, right? When she comes to know about what is going wrong in her life, she stood for herself. Now it was an easier choice for her to just let it go and enjoy life in a comfortable way, but then she took a stand, and that is because she is a modern independent woman. We also need to think as to, we are talking about modern independent women, but are we also seeing these women in the modern society? Where is that society that can accommodate these women? I think this is the question that I felt when I was reading through these short stories, and I was on a journey with these seven women, that they all definitely are, somewhere facing certain problems and consequences, and in all these stories they are facing all these things with no fault of their own. Now, who has played that role? So I think and a few I think this particular if I take that liberty, this particular book, when I was going through this, it reminded me of the project that you mentioned, Priyadarshini, in my introduction. In 2004 and 5, under the able guidance of the then dean of GNLU, Dr. Gangotri Chakraborty, I had an opportunity to work, and that was like coming out with 5 different booklets in Gujarati and English both, roadmap to justice, and that was also on the same line. So that time also there was a question in my mind that was, of course, based on the court decision, and this is based on the life episode of certain women. But I think with modern, I definitely agree that they reflect the modern aspiration of the women, but I think we must also look for, or we must strive to create that modern society that can accommodate this women. The problem and the conflict is because we are empowering probably somewhere our women with all sort of possible requirements, but I think the society is not growing. The society is only talking about progressive things. The laws that are mentioned by the author, we have a very progressive chapter on fundamental rights that talk about right to equality, right? But do we actually see that, right? When these choices are made, do they get appreciation for these choices being made, or they are just being told that you ought not to have done this? And that is how one woman who has made that independent choice is ultimately not inspiring 100 women, but out of 100, hardly 10 would take up that, because they are seeing that there is no acceptance of this. So 90 women are not taking up such independent choices. So the modern woman with aspirations we are able to create, but where is that society that can accommodate? That is the question that, at the end of the book came to my mind.
Okay, aptly said so. Coming to you, sir, having read the book, I must confess, many a times I could relate to the characters and the conflict that they undergo while making certain choices. Now, I'm deeply intrigued as to how difficult or exhausting, if I can say it that way, was it being a man to unfold these layers of emotions that all your women characters experience. Even the protagonist of your debut novel, Mountains to Manhattan, was also a woman. So, why are all the characters women? And are these characters real, or are they the end products of your imagination?
Uh, Fortunately, unfortunately, yes, all my characters are women. So 7 here, one in the last book, and 2 more in the next 2 books. So it's approximately 10 till now. See, the reason as a man, when I write, I don't find a problem because I do not know what is a man's mentality or a woman's mentality. I try to put myself into the shoe of a woman and try to think, okay, if this is the situation, how will they react? How will they think? And then that's how I write. And other than that, obviously, since I am born and brought up, I have been always surrounded by a lot of women. So I have tried to absorb them, try to see them how they thought, how they took decisions in their life. Maybe from our home, maybe it's my mother, sister, wife, friends, or in the professional field, or anywhere else. So when we are surrounded by women, so that is how I see. So as an author writing about a woman, I don't find a problem. But yes, I do not know how my readers react. Where the readers actually can tell whether I'm doing a justice to those characters or not. Whether I'm representing the women, do they really look as a real woman? I do not want someone to be very superficial, So that the readers have to say. I cannot say about that. And if you ask me why women, then another thing is, see, as humans, women have their own thoughts, feelings, motivations, aspirations, desires, independent from men. They are sensitive, they are sympathetic, they are passionate, understanding, they are brave, courageous. So they really do not need a man to support them. They can support themselves, and they can support their family or the people around them. So it is a high time that we should be writing about them. The women deserve to be written and represented that way in media. It is high time to bring them in the forefront and appreciate them. So if my writings bring them at the forefront, and if my writings inspire other women, if my writings inspire the society, as man said, like, why is a modern society? Maybe we do not have it today. Maybe one author like me, and tomorrow hundreds author like me, or any creative artist, maybe it's a filmmaker, a painter, or whoever, keep on keep on writing, keep doing things, then things will change. The society will change. And I think they will be successful. And I always believe that as a creative artist, when we write or do any creative work, then there should be a very strong message going to the society from the author or from the artist. So that's what we have to do. It should not be just only a story, because that story we all see around us. But we should take out something what was injected into it and what cannot be seen. So that is what I do. So I hope I have covered all the parts of your question. But my greatest fear is, like, am I doing justice to those characters? So that my readers will be the best people to answer them.
Okay, that's for the readers to answer. But having read your book, I must say you've done absolute justice to all the characters. Like I said, I myself could relate to the various conflicts that go in, inside the heads of your character while taking up a cause or making those deliberate choices. So, personally, I would say you've done a great job, in spite of being a
Thank you.
man.
Thank you.
Tell me, how long have you been writing this book? I mean, when did you start, and how long did it take for you to end this book finally?
Yesterday, I was actually thinking when I started writing. So it is more than 10 years, maybe 11 or 12 years I was writing this book. I remember, I do not know if Shilpa Bali, you are watching this. I used to write this as a blog, and Shilpa was my colleague. We are not working for us 10 years, so it's more than that. So I used to go in office and I used to tell her, "Arey, I have written something to Padegi." So she used to say, "Okay, give me the link." So she had read to the Suparna and Aditi, and after that, I think I have shared all with you, Priyadarshini. So it's more than 10 years I've been writing. It started with a blog, and it took 11, 12 years to come out as a book. This is the first book I wrote, actually. Mountains to Manhattan came in between. It just somehow came in between, and I wrote it and I published it, so it just happened. But this is a book which I had been nurturing for a long time with the characters, because seven, it's just carrying seven women with me, and I'm leaving those lives. So it took time, and over the period of time, yes, all of these characters also matured with me. So the initial blogs that I wrote, and the final book, so there's a very, very big change, a vast change into it.
Okay, Dr. Buch, we have seen in the characters of Aditi, Devjani, Maitrey, they're all single mothers, women who are trying to defy the much accepted social convention of marriage, going against the prevalent societal norms. And it takes them a lot of convincing to do to get their choices recognized and acknowledged. Which brings me to my question, taking a cue from what you've discussed earlier. Do you think a modern woman, if I may call it, also needs a modern society or a whole modern ecosystem to exist and prosper?
Certainly, that's what I think I mentioned earlier with the earlier question. In fact, if we are eyeing for, or we are still discussing today also whether women empowerment is a myth or reality. We are really confused, and we definitely cannot say that yet. Yes, it is a reality. The reason is this: because if you really want half of your society to be empowered, the other half has to support. And if you are not supporting, right, the patriarchal system is there, and they all are behaving the way in which we see them, is because there is a way in which there is a societal structure, the upbringing, which is helping them to behave, right? I think more than 50-70% of the women do not recognize what is happening to them is wrong, because their upbringing always conditioned them that this is how the men would behave. So we are not telling our boys that this is how you will grow up as a man, and this is how a woman will behave, right? So that is where I think a gap is. So the modern society definitely has to play a very vital role. And there I am not just say blaming it on men. Of course, there are a number of women also who also have that kind of mind, mental setup rather. So they also are not very supportive of such kind of independent choices. So the characters that have been shown, I know, very in a very subtle manner, some of the characters are like in case of Devjani, she is very, very disturbed and upset, and you can feel her pain as a reader. But I think the men she loved the most somehow missed that part, and that's the irony of her life. And she is ready to forgo the remaining pleasure of her life also. Why? Because she feels that she has to fulfill her responsibility towards her daughter. Now this conditioning, who will bring a woman out of this mindset that it's okay, you must come out and say that this is something which is painful for me, and I am not here to take this. You will have to help me. If you are not able to recognize it, I am there to tell you that you please recognize. So I think this is what we need to recognize.
Very rightly said. So a modern woman also needs a modern society that encompasses a modern man, the fellow modern woman she is working or sharing her lives with. Um, so, like I said, you need a whole ecosystem if you wish to thrive and prosper. Sir, if you have a copy of this book with you, then I would request you to show a copy of that to the readers, to
Yeah,
the
this is
audience, and to us
wonderful.
as well.
This is the
Okay.
only book and the copy that I have, the author's copy.
Okay. Um, so you tell me, sir, while you embark on a journey to write a book, what comes to your mind first, the plot or the characters? And what is the most difficult part in this whole writing process?
The plot comes first, definitely. The plot comes first, and then we develop the characters around it. But almost they go hand in hand. It is not that we think of a plot without the character. So the protagonist is always there, and then the plot comes. And then as we move forward, then the other characters get in. So that is how we do it. And what was the second part?
What's the most difficult part in this whole writing
Difficult part.
process?
Okay, the difficult part is, first of all, writing itself is very difficult, very laborious job. You know, to write a book, it takes, at least if you're writing every day, still it will take 7-8 months to write a book. So maintaining that journey, because we are all working professionals, we don't write every day, for the whole day. So it takes at least 7-8 months or 10 months to write a book. So that's very laborious. Though we write on we are privileged to write on a laptop. So corrections are easy, but I do not know how authors write before us with a pen and a paper. Still, it's a very, very tiring job, And when we are writing, so you are leaving those characters. So you are those characters. So you cannot leave those characters also. You cannot leave and go also. So when you're writing, so you want to finish it. You want to finish that chapter or what you're writing, that scene. So it's very tiring. And the next part is after you write. That is more tiring to me, because that is the part you go for corrections and proofreading and editing. So your book you're reading at least 25-30 times after that. So you know the story. Then nothing excites you to read it again and again and again. But every time you read it, so you find there is some error or something wrong, and you keep on correcting them. That is the worst part, I think, for an author. Is something like what the teachers have checking their answer scripts, is something like that for us. So if you can avoid that, that would have been the best. Otherwise, the writing journey is good, but yes, it's laborious. It's very tiring.
Okay, my next question might sound a little naive, but I would still take the risk of asking it. What do you do when you hit the proverbial writer's block? What do you do when you get stuck with a character or the development of a plot?
No, I do not get a writer's block. Writers, I do not know. People, those who get writer's block, how do they get it? I do not get it, because if you have your plot ready, if you have the characters ready, if you know what you want to write, so there's no block. So you're writing it. It only happens that you started writing something and you do not know where to end. You do not know how to move forward. You do not know the path, how it takes. So then you are stuck. So if that is ready with you, you are, see what happens is, we just think of 1 line, 2 line, or a 3-line plot. That's it. And when we start writing, so we do not know how many pages or how many chapters this book will have. So we keep on writing. But yes, every time you write, you should know what you want to write. And when you start writing the book, one thing has to be sure, whether you do not know the size, the length, or whatever it is, that where you are going to end this book, what will be the conclusion of this book. So if your goal is fixed and you keep on writing, so I don't feel that there is a writer's block. I don't have that. But what I understand is, yes, if you do not have those plans with you, then yes, you will have a writer block. You will at a certain point, you will not have anything to write. You will not know how where to move. So you need time again to develop that.
Any advice you would like to offer to the first time writers? I mean, how many hours did you write yourself daily, or was it on a daily basis at all?
Uh, to the new writers, one thing is very clear: keep writing. Don't stop writing. You should write whatever you want. It may be crap, doesn't matter. Keep writing. And say if you're writing a short story, novel, whatever, you finish it. It will take time, so keep doing that, and write down however or whatever comes to your mind. It doesn't, you do not have to think of the construction of sentences, language, spelling, grammar. No, don't think of any of it. Just write down. Those are technical issues. Those technical issues can be taken care later on when you go for editing. But you should write down first at a flow, the entire story, novel, whatever it may be. And then when you have, so your structure is ready, and then you have enough time to change those technical things, improve them. You can always work and improve them. So that is how every new writer should do. I don't know, it's called a method writer or so I don't write that way. I write whenever I have a plot and I keep writing. So it doesn't matter what I am doing. So as I said, so if I am in a job or my office is taking a lot of time, then I cannot indulge myself into it. So when I indulge, I keep on writing. So then I don't look at anything. I push away everything and I keep on writing, because that's something that's going in my head. So I have to write it down. If I do not write it down, so it's going to go away. Another thing is, say if it's a 20 or a 15 chapter book, I have written 5 chapters, and for some reason I had to take a break. Coming back to writing is very tough, because then the character has vaporized from me. I do not know. I don't leave that character anymore. So again, I have to start right from the beginning, read the entire piece that I had written, and get into the character, and then maybe the thought process that comes in, or maybe I have a different thought process again. So it's better you write it at a flow, do it at a time. Otherwise, the break really creates a problem. And new writers, please keep on writing. Don't stop writing. Technical issues can be well taken care of. You can do it. There are professionals to help you, so that's not a problem.
Okay, fair point. Dr. Buch, let me ask you a question that is plaguing me for quite some time now. In Suchandra's character in this book, we find she experiences domestic abuse, and yet she doesn't take recourse to law. Now, you being somebody who has been closely associated with projects for empowerment of women and also being a faculty of law, what's your take on how much legally aware or empowered are the modern women? Or do they still prefer to suffer in silence?
Oh, it's a very relevant question. This question bothers me also a lot, Priyadarshini. I would say from little experience that I have, of course, there is some sort of positive development in form of more cases coming to surface. The reason is not that now, because there are people who say that, my God, earlier the situation was better, now the situation is worse. No, I don't agree with that. The situation is now actually being shown. The situation definitely was worse earlier also, but then there was absolutely no recourse which was being taken. Another thing is that, as I mentioned earlier also, there are quite a huge percentage of women who, number one, fail to recognize that what is happening to them is a wrong, for which they must stand up for their own self. If you're not doing justice to your own self, how can we, the society, expect you to do well and behave well with your fellow mates or your children or the other members in the society? So they are conditioned, they are not able to recognize. And number two, there are women who definitely recognize that this is something wrong, but again their societal structure actually is not permitting them to take this recourse. And that is how we definitely use this particular phase for women, that they suffer in silence. So ultimately the society also recognizes that there is some suffering, they are victimized, and suffering and victimization definitely are not such words that are conveying that all is well. You must take a step, And I would say that if women are not taking recourse, it's time the society must recognize that if they will not take this recourse, what will happen? And ultimately, even when we have such kind of legal provisions, all statutory books are full with so many provisions. Of course, that's not a matter about which we should feel very proud, because if you have more and more legal provisions for protection and betterment of women, meaning thereby your society definitely is somewhere going wrong, and you are somehow missing out on giving them equal status which you are boasting of. So that is something which is still part of our statute book, and it must come to the modern society. And it is a very important part of creating a modern ecosystem which facilitate each and every woman taking a recourse in case of such kind of violation of right. So number one, women must recognize that there is something wrong. Number two, if women fail in recognizing it, the society must stand by and tell that this is where things are going wrong, baby, you must do something for your own self. And I think if that is something which happens more frequently, then I think we will see that these women who have taken choices and taken stand in their life will certainly be empowered and be inspiration for remaining
Change,
fellow
change,
women in the
change.
society.
Okay, very well put. So perhaps the most relevant question now: how does one grab a copy of this book? Is there an e-book version also available for the Kindle readers?
Yes, the books are available online on Amazon and Flipkart, and you also have an ebook. That's a Kindle version. So you can go online and you can buy the books. So they are right now available, open
Okay.
for sale. So you can have it.
Okay. So before we bid adieu, one last question to you, sir. Who have you dedicated this book to, and would you like to tell us more about her?
This book is dedicated to Professor Dr. Gangotri Chakraborty. Uh, Good that you asked this question. People normally do not ask a question about the books being dedicated, as we all dedicate books and for some specific purposes. She is a woman who has touched many lives and has changed many lives. Uh, my family is one of them. And without her, I would have never been an author. When I used to write these blogs, I used to send her, and she used to keep on inspiring me. I never thought that I can write a book. Blogs stuck thik tha, something like that. I used to always tell her. But no, she kept on inspiring me. You can write, you can write, you can write. And that's how I went on writing, and she kept on telling me what's right, what's wrong. So she is actually the woman who had made me an author. So that is why, as this was my first book, she had lived with all the characters. This is as well as her journey. So this is my small tribute to the lady, who had actually shaped me as an author. This is the most what I can give to her.
Okay, wonderful. Um, okay, so I'm going to down the curtain for today's evening by handing over the virtual space to the author himself. Sir, what would you tell your readers on what to expect when they buy this book? You may promote your book now for the virtual audience, and we could wrap up with that note.
I think ma'am has already spoken about it, those characters. So for my readers, for the audiences, just you can grab the book. This book, I hope, will not dishearten you. Uh, you will live with the characters. We see these people in and around us, and I hope that this will inspire every one of you. This will inspire, and this will inspire, especially, I think it will inspire more the younger girls. That yes, it is your life. You live your life on your own way, and there's always hope, and there's always happiness. Nothing comes to an end. So uh, I think that's it. Let the readers now read it. I personally feel it won't disappoint.
Okay, so you might have had a lot of sleepless nights before writing this book. And now, once it's in the final form, you'll be having even more sleepless nights because you might be waiting for the reader's feedback. Um,
Yes,
uh,
exactly.
okay, so This brings us to the end of this evening's online live event. Sir, wishing you all success with your second book. Thank you, Dr. Buch, for joining us all the way from Gujarat. And thank you, all our virtual audience, for joining us on Facebook Live. It was one winter evening well spent in good company. Until we see you all again, keep reading, keep spreading joy through books. Bye for now.
Thank you, Dr. Buch, and thank you, Priyadarshini.
Thank you.
It's a
Thank
pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same.